In this PsychBoost video, we're going to cover explanations for forgetting. Now, we've all experienced entering an old password or PIN by mistake, and we've all struggled to remember something for ages, only for the memory to be triggered when given a cue, like walking to the kitchen, forgetting why we're there, and then remembering when walking back into the living room. So, we're going to discuss types of interference, both proactive and retroactive, as well as 3 types of cue-dependent forgetting. PsychBoost.com, over 170 videos to help you with your qualification, and Patreon supporters can access bonus resources, tutorial videos, and the Discord channel. Interference. Interference as an explanation for forgetting is the idea that long-term memories get confused with other memories when they're coded. And there are 2 ways that this can happen. Firstly, proactive interference. This is when information that's already in long-term memory, so old information, interferes with the recall of newer information. We could say that old information moves forward in time. There's also the opposite process, when learning new information interferes or disrupts the recall of older information. And we could say this is new information that works backwards in time. This can be a little tricky to understand, so let's look at a few examples. Here are 10 scenarios, and based on what I've just said, try and figure out if they're examples of pro or retroactive interference. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so how did you do? If you got it right, you can probably spot in the scenario either that it was more recently learnt information that was disrupted for proactive, and old information that was disrupted in the retroactive scenarios. 2 things that make interference more likely. Firstly, how similar the 2 pieces of information are. So you're more likely to have interference between a phone number and another phone number than, say, a phone number and a postcode. And we'd say that's because the 2 sets of information are similar, and this creates response competition. Both sets of information are there, but it's difficult to choose between them. Secondly, time sensitivity. Interference is more likely to happen if there's a small time difference between when you first learnt both sets of information. And of course, the reverse is true. The larger the time gap between learning both bits of information, the less likely interference is to happen. Research showing retroactive interference is by Schmidt, who showed people between the ages of 11 and 79 a map of the area around their childhood home, but left out the street names. Schmidt found the more time someone moved, the fewer street names they could recall. You might recognise this as a negative correlation, and the data suggests retroactive interference, the new information of more recent street names interfering with the recall of older street names. There is also research showing proactive interference by Greenberg and Underwood. Participants were asked to learn 4 per word lists with 48 hours between testing each list. The percentage of correctly recalled words decreased the more word lists had been learned previously, from 69% for the first list to 25% for the 4th word list. This suggests previously learned information moves forward and interferes with the recall of new information, so proactive interference. Cue-dependent forgetting. We'll come to some more general evaluations in a minute, but first I want to talk about another concept, cue-dependent forgetting. This is when the information is in long-term memory, but we can't access it, because we don't have the correct cues or prompts. This is an idea called the encoding specificity principle. When we make or encode our memories, other contextual information from when you made the memory is encoded along with it, such as aspects of the environment or how you felt when you made the memory. Recalling that memory or forgetting it is influenced by the presence or absence of similar retrieval cues. So there are going to be 3 types of retrieval cue we're going to cover: context, state, and category dependent cues. Context dependent cues are the cues we get from the external environment. Familiar sights and sounds can trigger memories. An absence of those retrieval cues can make recall more difficult and inhibit memory. A study that demonstrated this effect was by Godden and Badley. They taught divers word lists either on land or underwater, and then tested them on land or underwater. They found recall was significantly better if they recalled the information in the same place that they'd first learnt it. So recall was best underwater if they had learnt the information underwater. State-dependent cues are the cues that we get from our own internal environment. This can be a mood, a state of arousal like high anxiety, or if your internal environment is affected by alcohol or drugs. Now, we would argue that recall is better if when recalling information, we're in the same state as when the information was coded. A study that demonstrates the effect of state-dependent cues is Overton's research, and in this study, information was learnt either drunk or sober, and later each group was tested drunk or sober. Overton found that recall was better if learnt in the same state, so interestingly, recalling information learnt drunk was better when drunk again. And finally, category-dependent cues. This is a little more complex. The way we organise information can act as a cue. If we have other bits of information linked to what we're trying to recall, that acts as a cue. And you may have experienced this in class with your teacher. When I ask a question in class and the student struggles to answer, I won't just tell them the answer. I'll give a cue, hoping that will trigger a memory. So I might say, we learned about this idea when we studied attachment. The idea might suddenly come as because that information is linked to the category attachment. Evidence for category-dependent cues is shown by Tulving and Pearlstone. They give participants 48 words to learn. The participants either used free recall, saying the words back in any order, or recalling the list split into 4 word categories that act as cues. The recall in the categorized condition was significantly better than the uncategorized recall condition, showing categories act as effective cues for recall. Additional valuations for explanations for forgetting. Now let's think of some additional valuations. Well, first of all, research on how forgetting works has real practical applications, such as revision strategies for students, and helping police get more accurate eyewitness testimony, with findings from cue-dependent forgetting being used in the cognitive interview, a technique we're going to cover at the end of the memory unit. With interference, the loss of information might only be a temporary process, so interference theory might not be a true explanation of forgetting. We don't know if interference involves writing over information so it's no longer accessible, or if with the right cues, we can access that lost information. Interference also can't explain many day-to-day examples of forgetting. Interference can only explain forgetting when 2 sets of information are similar. Many everyday examples of forgetting, like forgetting someone's birthday or where you just put your keys, are a little bit more difficult to explain with interference theory. Finally, again, there is the issue of much of the research on memory coming from artificial studies using tasks that lack mundane realism, as in tasks that are not like the tasks people do in their normal lives. And we can argue that this lowers the validity of those findings, not really showing how forgetting happens in the real world. Have a go at this real exam question on explanations for forgetting. If you're a PsychBoost patron at the neural level and above, you can access a tutorial on psychboost.com, and I'll talk you through a model answer to this question and some general tips. For everyone else, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the videos released right up to your exams. And I'll see you in the next PsychBoost video, Factors Affecting the Accuracy of Eyewitness Testimony.